now, coming to you live from an undisclosed location somewhere in the Ozark Mountains, it's Spooky Talk Show with Josh the Devil. And now, here he is, Josh the Devil.
Okay, hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Spooky Talk Show. I'm Josh, and whoo, it's a crazy live show. That's why we like doing this thing live. It's so much more fun this way. Michael, Blake, Shane, you guys know what I'm talking about. And if you don't, then jump in the chat and be part of this. Okay, Shane says I do look good. Okay, and they say they can. Okay, well, whew. All right, crisis averted. Ladies and gentlemen, we have got such a good show tonight. We've got Elvis Weinstein on the program. Now, I know you're going, Josh, now who is that again? Remind us. And, well, I'll be glad to. Well, I know him best as one of the co-founders of Mystery Science Theater. That's right, the original Tom Servo, the original mad scientist Larry Earnhardt, Dr. Larry Earnhardt. And now he's done a ton of stuff. He's worked on Freaks and Geeks. He's written for all kinds of stuff. But he's got a brand new documentary coming out about Michael DeBar. It's called Michael DeBar, Who Do You Want Me to Be? And it looks really good. There's a trailer on YouTube. You can go and watch that. Not right now after the show, but go and watch that and you'll get a really good idea of the scope of Michael's career. We're going to get into that, and we're going to get into all sorts of Mystery Science Theater stuff. It's going to be so good, you guys. I can't wait. And I'd love to tell you about all the fun stuff that's coming up next week, but I can't because I don't know. But so you guys, I know you're asking yourself, Josh, just shut up and tell us about the news, what's going on. So I'm going to push that one, and we're going to come over here to this camera. Oh, and this is a good camera too. Look at that thing. There, yeah. Looking good. You can see Robert the Doll and Tom Servo back there having a good time. I know we're having a good time. Okay, so anyway, the news. Well, let's do it. A California-based sex addict. I love it when the sentence starts like that. Let me start again. A California-based sex addict is suing streaming service Twitch for $25 million, claiming that sexually suggestive female streamers exacerbated his condition and caused him harm. Look, genius, alcoholics don't go to bars for the same reason you shouldn't log into Twitch. Yeah, there's just something in my eye. Let me make some notes here. Apparently, Twitch equals boobs? Question mark? Okay, research later. Okay. Moving on, what else is going on? Well, members of the Minneapolis City Council calling to defund the police department have been assigned private security after receiving death threats. The security is costing taxpayers approximately $4,500 a day. If only there was an organization that was dedicated to protecting and serving. You know, a group that could police the community, but I don't know. I can't think of any. Okay, moving on. Oh, these guys. All right, well, Netflix has removed an episode of the sitcom Community because an Asian character appears in blackface. Okay. But the character was playing a Dungeons and Dragons and portraying a dark elf, not an African American. Well, looks like Netflix rolled a 20 on pandering and a 1 on common sense. You guys don't like Dungeons and Dragons? You don't understand with the... You see, if you roll a nat 20, that... All right, well... If you didn't get that one, then you'll actually like this one because Ron Jeremy, porn legend Ron Jeremy. Wait, he was into porn? I just thought he was an actor in Orgasmo. Porn actor Ron Jeremy, 67, shown here, has pleaded not guilty after being charged with raping 3 women and assaulting a 4th. Now, Jeremy, real name Ronald Jeremy Hyatt, is he heir to the Hyatt fortune? He was shocked to learn that women weren't lining up to bang a fat, ugly dude in his 60s. Don't take your work home with you, Ron. Don't. The sound effects aren't on. Okay, no sound effects. I bet they're on now because I pushed a button and then, let's see. So we'll back up. Porn legend Ron Jeremy, 67, has pleaded not guilty after being charged with raping 3 women and sexually assaulting a 4th. Jeremy, real name Ronald Jeremy Hyatt, was shocked to learn that women weren't lining up to bang a fat, ugly dude in his 60s. Don't take your work home with you, Ron. All joking aside, don't sexually assault people. It's not cool. I think the sound effects are on now. I just got to remember to flip a switch before the interview comes on, or we get that echo. If you guys were watching last week, we had the Booyah Dad echo. Yeah, okay. Oh. Sorry, I got to get rid of that picture of Ron Jeremy. I'm sorry, you guys. That's my fault. You guys shouldn't have to look at that. What else is going on? Well, a 26-year-old Louisiana man was arrested after swimming in a Bass Pro Shop aquarium as part of a TikTok challenge. Kevin Wise, perhaps the most ironic name currently in the news, he said he'd swim in the tank if he got 2,000 likes. He didn't want to be a liar. He was charged with simple criminal damage to property. Simple criminal damage to property. That's a misdemeanor. And making local officials over the age of 35 try to figure out what TikTok is. I still don't know. There you go. There we go. All right. Oh, Robert Duarte's late to the party, but he's still here. See, he's chatting. Where are you? Where are you? Who am I talking to? I don't know. All right. Well, finally, our old friend of Spooky Talk Show, Justin Bieber. In a recent interview, he said that his career has benefited from black culture. Somebody tell the Biebs black people have enough accusations to protest right now. Oh, gosh almighty. Hey, listen, let me get rid of the Biebs there. Bye, Biebs. Listen, guys, hey, if you want to help out Spooky Talk Show, there's a couple ways you can do it. You can jump over to patreon.com, and if you sign up over there for as little as $1 a month, well, you'll get awesome, cool things. That's right. You'll get, the sound effects are too loud. It's always something with you people. Well, what was that? Okay, well, let me fiddle with a thing there, and okay. Probably fine now. I don't know. Anyway, you can jump over to patreon.com and you can sign up for $1 a month and you can find all kinds of cool stuff. Now, as soon as we get a few more people over there, we're going to start doing a monthly patrons only live stream where we talk about all kinds of cool stuff. And you can have some help in writing some jokes and some bits for the show. And if you have a webcam, then you might even be able to be part of a bit on the show, as we always need weirdos that can pretend to act. That's right. And those are not that hard to come by, it seems like. Anyway, or you can jump over to teespring.com/Spooky Talk Show and you can buy a t-shirt or something over there, and that helps out on the show because you know, it costs a few dollars. We actually do pay our writers and our bit producers you know, some money so that they can you know, live and eat and things like that, things that you know, you should be able to do. I'd also like to point out we got all kinds of new features built into the show now. So if you, like, say you subscribe, this little awesome thing comes up and goes, no, he's down there. He's a little zombie guy down here. And he shows up and he says, hey, you know, I'm awesome. So there you go. If you want to subscribe now, it'd be an awesome time because the little zombie guy's going to do it. There's also some super chats and things there. I could be louder, my sound effects lower. All right, well, let me just fiddle with some things some more and then bump a thing and all right, and then I'll do this and that and okay. And just about the time that I've got all the sound perfect, well, it's time for that interview, isn't it? Of course it is. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you know my next guest as one of the co-founders of Mystery Science Theater, writer of Freaks and Geeks, America's Funniest Videos. He's worked with stand-ups comedians such as Gary Shandling, Dennis Miller. He's got an amazing podcast with Andy Kindler right now called Thought Spiral. And of course, he's got a brand new documentary called Michael DeBar, Who Do You Want Me to Be? I'm talking, of course, about J. Elvis Weinstein. Hey, Josh, are you there? Can you hear me okay?
I am here. Can you hear me?
I can, and what a familiar voice it sounds coming through my my speakers here, because none other than the OG Tom Servo right there. He's over my shoulder, and I can hear him in my headset. It's a little trippy. Thank you so much for coming. The fact
it was
that you
real
just,
easy, I have to say.
Well, I messaged you, you messaged me back, and then bingo, bango. It makes me think, well, I should have done that a long time ago. I could have done that in the first season. Yeah, who would have thought? Well, thanks so much for being here. Now, a lot of our guests probably know you as, like I said, OG co-founder of Mystery Science Theater, there from the beginning, at 17 years old, no less. And I always wondered, I was like, why do I feel more of a connection to him? It's because you were way closer to my age. The other guys are in a different generation. You were the only one from that, way closer. And I
was the Gen X guy, yeah.
The Gen X guy. That was before Gen X was even a term yet. So, and then you went on and you did a ton of amazing writing, Freaks and Geeks, America's Funniest Videos. You did writing for the Greg Kinnear Show, and some of my favorite stand-ups. You've got Gary Shandling, Dennis Miller. I mean, that's just impressive.
That was both a long time ago, but yeah.
Now,
I'm not sure how that actually stays on my resume, frankly. Those were credits I would use as a young man, but I don't.
Listen, if I did anything with Gary Shandling, shook his hand, saw him from a car, I would put that on everything I ever wrote from that point forward.
I wrote for one of his Emmy appearances.
Okay, all right. No, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's where you want to write jokes, is for those crazy Emmy appearances and or Oscars.
In fact, Dennis Miller was actually an Emmy jokes as well.
That makes sense. Well, now you've got a podcast you've been doing for a while with Andy Kindler called Thought Spiral. You guys have knocked out 161 of those things. Yeah. What's the typical conversations like on Thought Spiral?
As we generally logline it, it's 2 Jews, 2 mics, 2 hours, and it's really, we're both longtime friends and comics, and we talk about our lives, basically, largely Andy's life. Andy's life requires seemingly a lot more discussion than my life does. So, but it's on a level, it's really 2 funny friends,
That's got to be
our friendship, sort of.
That's got to be nicer for you if he can bring most of the problems and you can just comment on them. That's got to be a little bit of a relief. I'd be worried. Absolutely. I'd be worried. I'd have to look for problems, find extra things.
No, he brings plenty to the table.
That's a good co-host right there. Then. Well, the reason that things are going crazy right now, and that I really reached out, is I saw your post on Twitter that mentioned new trailer for a documentary about Michael DeBar. Now, at the time, Michael DeBar, the name in my head, conjured one thing, and that was host of his show on Underground Garage, which I listened to extensively, and so I knew his voice. And of all the people who've ever had a radio voice, this man has the most soothing, pleasant listen. I commented to you, I said, I could listen to that man read the phone book, and I honestly could. It's just such a good voice. There's such, I don't know. There's something.
That's about a third of the documentary is him reading the phone book. So.
All right. Well, then I will be very happy with this. But so as soon as the trailer came out, I said, "Hey, man, would you want to come on our silly little show and talk about it? Since obviously you got something cool to promote." And to my surprise and my other Misty buddies' friend's surprise. We were like, you said yes, and here we are. So let's talk about Michael DeBar a little bit. Now, I must confess, growing up, I really didn't know him as a musician. I knew him as MacGyver's nemesis, Murdoch. And I have to say, Murdoch was a good villain. Of all TV arch nemesis, He was
Yeah.
really good. You never knew where he was. He was always in disguise. You always thought he was always dead, but never really dead. What a brilliant villain.
He was the Wile E. Coyote of assassins.
Definitely. You couldn't kill him.
Yeah.
So I
Nor
did,
could he kill you.
right. Now he could never kill MacGyver either, and it was a lot of that James Bond supervillain ego that would do him in, an elaborate
Yeah.
trap, and he would leave before it would go off. You know, that whole setup. But still a very good villain. So I had to dig in. I'm like, well, let me get into this guy. And it turns out, well, he's got an extensive history in both film and music. Now, film, this guy was in everything in the 80s and 90s. I mean, I'm looking through the list here. He was in Seinfeld, Alf, Just Shoot Me, Northern Exposure, 21 Jump Street, St. Elsewhere, Frasier, Renegade. I mean, Nip Tuck. He was in everything. He was like one of those character actors you just saw in everything.
Absolutely.
And so, but then I dig a little deeper into his music and realize, oh, he's the guy that took over Power Station when Robert Palmer left and just
Right.
decided he didn't want to tour or whatever for crazy reason. And that led to him playing Live Aid and making other albums. So with such an interesting and broad career, how did you specifically choose him for this documentary? And then how were you able to actually make that happen? Because I would love to make a documentary about Michael DeBar, but nobody's going to let me do that. How did you make this happen?
Well, it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't hard to. It wasn't hard to convince him, certainly. But what had happened was I had worked with him on a TV show called My Guide to Becoming a Rock Star, which was on the WB, I believe, and we were filming up in Vancouver. This I think was around, I don't know, year 2002 maybe. And I was excited to have him on the show. He came on the show to replace Johnny Rotten, who was in the pilot of the show.
Okay.
And then it proved to be too Johnny Rotten-esque for the series.
I would not envy a director that had to direct Johnny Rotten to do anything at all. That must have been
Yeah, I think actually the problem was more his off-camera demands than his on-set performance.
Yeah, I kind of would expect nothing less. If you told me he was perfectly pleasant on the set, I think I'd think less of him a little bit.
His requests weren't that punk, I gotta say. But so I met Michael, and I had actually worked with him on another show where he guest starred, and so I kind of knew that when you're looking for a rock star to be on your TV show, chances are you're going to end up with Michael DeBar, because he's the guy who's both been a rock star and has played tens and tens of rock stars as characters on TV shows.
Yeah, that's perfect.
So he both knows how to do it and knows what's funny about it at the same time, which right away to me, self-awareness is my number one charm point for people generally. So he really defied my expectations, because I didn't know what to expect with this character who I had seen on WKRP and at Live Aid and all these things that you mentioned growing up. So I knew who he was, and he had always sort of, as a pop culture fan, like when he joined Power Station, you know, I only knew him from WKRP, but I didn't know, you know.
Right, that must have been confusing.
Yeah, and I remember the VJs on MTV kind of not, like, only pretending to know who he was. And,
well, his previous bands, while, I mean, I checked out several songs, he had, I mean, like the
great voice.
Classic rock voice. I mean, his singing voice was just perfect of that era. Silverhead and Detective, both of those, I mean, solid songs. Nothing like super memorable, but still very, his vocal talents were, his vocal talents were over the top there. But
and that's why he's had record deals in 5 decades.
Right. But so as a, you know, I feel like I knew, you know, classic rock history, but I didn't know him. So yeah, you didn't say you're in the same boat.
I didn't really know the whole story. I knew some of the story. And I got fascinated by him, and we became very friendly. And I said it would be fun to write a book about your life.
Yeah.
And so we actually kind of got into that and I started recording some interviews with him, audio recording some interviews with him. And we worked on it for a while, and then both kind of realized that neither of us had a great deal of enthusiasm for writing a book. And it kind of faded away. We remained friends, but hadn't seen each other for a while when somebody, a common friend of ours, had both of us on her radio show one day, several years later.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I had been in a room with Michael in a long time, and I was like, I don't know why we were thinking about a book. We really should have done a documentary. And he was like, yeah, you're right. And then within about 3 weeks, I was shooting.
Oh man, well there you go, off and running. So you kind of you had enough history with him personally, so that was just.
I had enough history, and I knew enough of the story to know that there was a movie there.
Well, and clearly he knew you well enough to trust you, because that's a big part of it. If you're gonna let somebody into your house, into your studio, and tell them the most private stories, you got to trust them that they're gonna not splice them together in some odd way. So that was perfect. So
yeah, and he had no input into the movie. He did not see the movie until it was complete.
Wow. So he totally trusted you. He knew he knew you would take this the right way. Well, the trailer is out now. We got to talk about some of the people that you got interviews with, because I mean, you got some big heavy hitters, right? And I'm assuming there's more than we see in the trailer, but just right off the trailer we saw, I mean, Don Johnson right there, still looking pretty damn good.
Don Johnson is about as movie star-ish a presence as I've ever been in a room with, and I've been in rooms with bigger stars, but no one was a bigger star than Don Johnson.
I can believe it. He looks suave as all hell in the clip that I saw. And then, aside from him, you got some of rock's legends. You got Gabriel Byrne. You've got Steve.
Who's not a rock legend?
Well, he's not a rock legend, sorry, but you got Steve Jones. I mean, Steve Jones from the Sex Pistols, right there. One of my favorite guitar players. He wrote a great book as well. I love reading those rock star autobiographies.
He's great in the movie.
So I know he's a good storyteller, and so I was excited that he was in there. Now, who else have you got? Because I know I'm forgetting everyone.
We got John Taylor from Duran Duran. Michael's wife, Pamela DeBar, who wrote I'm a Band. Or Michael's ex-wife, I should say. I had Ed Begley Jr. is in the movie.
Yes.
Stephen Van Zant's in the movie.
Right.
And so many more.
Oh man!
People, all the members of Silverhead are in the movie.
Okay, good. I was going to ask if his old band members. Yes, yeah. Oh, this is a killer lineup, man. You probably felt like I do now talking to those guys.
It was fun. It's fun. It's a strange feeling having a Sex Pistol over to your house.
Yeah. He actually came over to your house.
He did in this case, yeah.
Oh, that's even cooler, man. Okay, I'm going to try and not get hung up on that. Now let's talk about the release, because we don't want to give too much away, because we want everybody to see this. The movie is coming out.
July 10th.
Where are my notes? July 10th. There it is. I think I keep smacking my mic.
On demand, everywhere you can buy or rent streaming video, it's going to be on.
So just
your pay-per-view on your cable systems and all those too. So.
Ooh, I can't wait. This is going to be good. I love a good rock doc, and this looks like it's got everything because he dabbled in both worlds. So
it really is. It's kind of a history of pop culture for 50 years. It's he was into Sir with Love, for God's sake.
Exactly. That was the thing I took away from the trailer. I immediately went, well, wait a minute. Who was he into Sir? How old was he into Sir with Love? And, yeah, and. So just going back just an amazing past. The fact that you interview Pamela DeBar, honestly, you could probably make a documentary just about Pamela. It would seem like.
For sure, yeah.
She's written just like half a dozen books at least or so, and she's probably got another dozen books or so probably worth of stories that. could make a good documentary there. Not to mention all the people who would tell stories about her. Well,
Yeah,
maybe that's
it's a rare. What I really love about both of them and most of the people in this documentary is, I think just because they're older now, and B, because they're really smart, sort of funny people, is that they have a sense of perspective about this world, without being jaded about it, which is an interesting place to come from. It's they're very enthusiastic about rock and roll and show business, but they aren't. It's not based in fantasy. They've lived it and been there and have a sense of humor about what it all is too.
oh,
It's not a. I tried really hard not to make an overly nostalgic movie. I
okay.
tried to make a grown-up's version of what this life is.
I like that. I can't wait. I am so excited. This is gonna be my nice little documentary summer break there. Man, I've got to talk about a couple of things because my Tom Servo tattoo here on my arm will start yelling at me tonight when I try to go to sleep if I don't ask you a little bit about some of the Mystery Science Theater history. But I want to make sure that we've covered everything with the documentary first, because I'm trying to suppress those feelings down. Oh, and we do need to mention you've got a killer stand-up CD called Chunks. Where can people find that?
Also, wherever things stream on iTunes or Amazon.
Good.
And it's also on Pandora and all the streaming services.
Well, see, it's nice when you make it easy for people. And I also want to mention, I almost forgot about this. You gave us a warning 2 years ago, almost exactly 2 years ago. You gave us all, or well, at least that was when the YouTube video was posted. You gave us all a warning, and no one listened. You gave us the warning about the uprisal of the My Pillow guy.
Oh yeah, right. He's from my home state of Minnesota, and I have to tell you that guy is going to be a problem for everyone.
I saw the stand-up today, and I was like, we all should have listened. You were there. You were telling us.
Oh, yeah.
Those of you who haven't seen the bit, it's essentially the first line in the bit is about worrying whether you're going to come home and he's going to be the governor.
Right. And they laugh and laugh.
And that was a funny joke 2 years ago, and now it's not so funny. And it's almost a little scary.
I was very, very clear that I was warning them as well as trying to entertain them.
Well, we didn't listen to Bill Hicks. There were a lot of comedians that we should have listened to. We listened to George Carlin, but we didn't listen to everything. But Bill Hicks was one. It's like he told us everything we needed to know. We just didn't hear it.
Bill Hicks was a friend of mine.
And really,
Yeah.
I
co-designed one of his album covers even.
Well, okay. Well, man, let me just add that to the list of shit that's blowing my mind today. Now, his
one where he's trudging through the snow is the one.
I've heard quite a few really good local stories because he actually lived here in Little Rock with his parents for a while, and so I've heard a number of stories of people interacting with him, and every single story I've heard about his parents tells me they are the nicest people on earth. And that's what I know about Bill Hicks. I know his parents are the nicest people on earth.
Yeah, I got that impression too.
Okay.
And I like that his mom went on Letterman and scolded him too.
Yes, I like that too.
As would he. He would have loved that too.
He would have really liked that. His final bit, which he was so proud of, and then he finally got it. I mean, it was, you could kind of say too little too late, but the way it was done, that's as good as you could possibly imagine, to have his mom come out there.
I was also dear friends with the late Ron Schock, who was one of the Texas Outlaw comics as well, where Bill started in Houston.
Yeah, I mean, you've got all the connections. Okay, I've got to get into a little deep 13.
All right.
I got my Gizmonix mug.
I'll put on the voice. Here you are.
Oh, there it is. Okay, you guys. For you guys at home, I'm going to try not to...
And yes, apparently I did make a face when I did the voice.
That's something you don't know until you do it in front of a camera, I guess. Interesting. Okay. So, like I mentioned before, you were like a totally different generation. Give us a quick rundown of how you went from just being a 17-year-old kid trying to kind of break into stand-up comedy, and then you join this crazy train going somewhere never before charted. So can you give us a glimpse into that?
Well, I'd broken into comedy already at that point. I'd started when I was 15, and
Wow, 15.
by 17, I was like a working Minneapolis comic, and I was going on the road occasionally, stuff like and so I had met Joel when Joel had sort of had a few years of stand up in the early 80s and had a great success. And he retired for a couple of years, moved back to Minneapolis. And when I was starting comedy in early 1987 at 15, it was when he was deciding to come back
Okay.
to stand up. And at that time, he also decided to teach a stand up class to some local stand-ups.
Right.
And so I was a fan of Joel's, and I had started doing stand-up a few months before that and took his class. So we got to know each other through that. And after the class, we stayed friends and would occasionally write jokes together. And eventually there was a writing group of all Minneapolis comics who would meet once a week and have breakfast and then go write in a conference room at the local library together. And we'd all sort of dump our notebooks on each other.
I like that. I like that community. That
sounds
really nice. That sounds really creative.
Was. It was a good time and a good place to start doing stand-up. And so Joel had started coming to that group, and that's where he recruited Trace and I out of one of those meetings to come to KTMA the next day and see if we could figure out a show he had half thought of.
I love that. So it was just a basic skeleton, right? I mean, you had to figure out.
It really was Joel's creation. To be fair, I mean, he had brought it to the point of spaceship puppets movie.
Okay.
What happened then was what was sort of improvised, but
I see.
He provided the framework of it. And then, and we sketched it out over a season on KTMA, which was a UHF station in Minneapolis.
Right. Which that's the perfect.
It wasn't until 4 episodes in that when we wrote the theme song, Joel and I wrote the theme song, and that's where the Mad Scientist came out of, and the real backstory took shape in the theme song. But the real development was, what do we say once we're in that theater? Because that was all improvised. And I think Joel's initial description was, it was going to be like a hosted movie, like so many local TV stations had at that time, but you'd actually go and be a good host and watch the movie with people too. You wouldn't just be there.
Right. Every other host would just say, "Woo, wasn't that scary?" And then and that was it. And then kind of that was it in between. You guys did both. Now I quite enjoyed all the stuff in between, because a lot of times the movies were tough to get through. Slow, bad audio, sometimes bad translation and bad dubbing and things. And so you really have to break up that monotony sometimes. And I love the Invention Exchange is fine, but just where you guys are talking back and forth, where it's we as the audience get to see the communication between the subject and the mad scientists, which that's really nice. And it's not like they're talking to Joel can talk to us, but you guys are basically just the mads are just talking to him and just telling him what to do. I love that. And it seems like you must have had to scramble to kind of create these characters, both the character of the personality of the bots, but also a mad scientist. Immediately you got to be a mad scientist, and you got to come up with that all of that.
Servo took a while. Servo was initially Beeper.
Right,
which
and just beeped, right.
and just beeped, and we realized very quickly, or I realized very quickly, that that wasn't going to be very much fun.
Now, was that like a Marx Brothers thing, sort
It was
of?
like an R2D2
Oh, an
thing.
R2D2. Okay, all right.
But there's just not much you can do with that.
No, there's not.
And so he put a different head on it, basically, which became the gumball machine, and said, come up with a character, essentially. And so I had a sort of Pee Wee Hermanish voice for a few episodes, and then I settled into the FM Mighty Radio voice.
The mighty voice. That's right. That's right. And
then the mad scientist voice, which was more like this, was meant to camouflage the fact that it was the same person.
Right. Larry had that high pitched voice, so there was really no mistaking the two voices. Whereas
Trace went the other way. Trace went with Dr. Lawrence or with Clayton Forrester, and Crow was up here.
Yeah. So it worked, and it also helped distinguish, which bot was talking, because we can't really see the bot's mouths move in the theater. So if you know what Servo sounds like, you know what Crow sounds like, then you know who's making the joke. So that was always good. This is Spooky Talk Show, so before we wrap up, any good spooky stories? Now, I've been lucky enough to have been on a few sound stages, lots of those just really old theaters, venues like that, and there's typically no shortage of just kind of creepy, unexplainable things. Do you have anything that comes to mind that maybe happened? Anything? Was KTMA haunted by the ghost of an old master control operator?
No, I think it was haunted by bad management.
There's where we'll put the rim shot sound in right there. I love it.
I don't. I worked at a haunted house in Minneapolis called Ghost Manor.
Oh, okay.
Teenager, as chainsaw guy.
I like that.
And literally, that was my job, was to stand behind a blind corner and rev a chainsaw at people as they came around the corner. It was tremendous amount of job satisfaction.
Yeah, that's got to be just scaring the living crap out of everybody who walks around the corner. That's just got to make you giggle every time. That couldn't get old.
And even if people get really mad, you got a chainsaw.
Oh, I love it. Josh, I would talk to you all day. Unfortunately, we are out of time, so I got to give a quick rundown.
All right,
everybody,
that seems so unofficial, but okay.
Okay, so everybody's got to go check out the trailer for Who Do You Want Me to Be? I didn't even get into the fact
Michael DeBar, Who Do You Want Me to Be?
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people as well. I can't be the only one who didn't know that Animotion covered that song, that was a cover song from Animotion. Yes. And if you haven't heard the original, you really should go listen to it, because it is just as good as Animotion's. I mean, 100%. They didn't add anything to it really at all. They didn't change it up. A little bit, but I mean, it's still, the core of the song is still there.
I assure you, Michael is plenty happy with Animotion's version.
Okay, good.
It's done very well for them all.
Oh, I'm sure those royalty checks are hard to get mad at. So July 10th is the date, so everybody can go stream it online on their favorite service. Everybody needs to go check out Thought Spiral podcast, wherever you get your podcasts from. And
Andy Kindler, come on down.
What's that?
Every month. I said me and Andy Kindler.
That's right. And just listen to all those crazy problems that Andy seems to have. And definitely go check out Josh's stand-up CD, Chunks. You can find that on Pandora. I bet you could create an awesome J. Elvis Weinstein Pandora station. I bet that's a great station. I may do that later, because that way I'll be assured to hear some of the bits from your CD right there.
There you go.
Okay. Thank you once again for coming. I can't thank you enough. My Tom over here thanks you. My Tom on my arm thanks you. And
we both thank both of you.
Oh, that's never gonna get old. I'm gonna giggle every time. I'm gonna watch this episode back, and I'm gonna giggle every time. Josh, thank you so much for coming. And if you can think of any reason to come back and promote anything else at all, don't hesitate to reach out. We will have you back in a moment's notice to talk about whatever it is.
God willing, there will be a next thing.
I love it. All right, Josh, thanks again so much, and we'll see you later, okay?
My pleasure.
All right,
Thank
bye-bye.
you. Bye.
Hey! Okay, let me take my headphones off and make sure the mic is on this time. Hey, I think it is. Oh boy, there you go. Interview, J. Elvis Weinstein. I can't believe I talked to the OG Tom Servo and he did the voice. And yeah, I giggled. And yeah, that's just how it is. And I'm gonna giggle every time. Every single time. You really should go check out the trailer for Michael DeBar, Who Do You Want Me to Be? You get a really good glimpse of all of those people that are in it. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. Hit our Patreon, hit our Teespring, and I don't know, maybe we can get Michael DeBar himself on the program. Wouldn't that be cool? We could spend a whole lot more time talking about him in the movie. Yes, we could. But I guess that'll just have to wait. Now, hopefully, Ben Heck is going to do a little interview with us. We're crossing our fingers. If you know Ben Heck, then I'm sure you're excited. Maybe you watched him on G4 or YouTube on the Ben Heck Show. Maybe you'll go find him now. Either way, cross your fingers, and maybe he'll join us on the program. Other than that, let me just say, hit that like button, hit that subscribe, and comment on the video. And don't forget to watch live next week, because it's a lot more fun when you guys watch live and chat along in the little thing there. And you can tell me when my mic's not working and the sound effects aren't loud enough, or whether they're too loud. You see what happens there? Okay, well, that's it from us this week. You guys be cool and stay